PMI, I think, executed very well last year on a roadmap that was a change in direction. So let's talk a little bit also on the future of where DA is going, but kind of where we're at right now. PMI, when they acquired Disciplined Agile, they rolled out a set of certification courses. And then those courses had one, I would say, significant sort of evolution. And there were 4 courses that you could be certified in, right? So there was the DASM, the Disciplined Agile Scrum Master, Senior Scrum Master, Disciplined Agile Coach, and Value Stream Consultant. The challenge with certification courses is that it is a lot of theory, and it's a lot of showing you things in slides that prepare you. I mean, yeah, you understand the content and the value and so forth, but it's also preparing you to challenge an exam, right? That's how a lot of certification courses work. And so, there's good and there's maybe not so good that comes along with that.
I feel like I know exactly what this is an ongoing subject with all valuable content. And this is what I tell people, regardless if it's for the PMP. Preparing for the PMP is not learning the PMP, the PMBOK. It's memorizing. It's rote memory. It's not cognitive, right? At least not as much. The focus is more on volume than it is on actually application, which sometimes a drawback. Yeah.
Yeah. So some changes, right, came about, and across PMI, DA was included in that. And so the DA certification courses were sunset. So PMI's direction, right, has been that they're moving to what they consider the gold standard, like the PMP or the CAPM, right, where it's a proctored exam. It's the way that the exam and the questions and the courses are designed are all very, very specific and very robust. So courses that we had, like in DA, were sunset. And there was a lot of backlash with, they're killing DA, and oh my gosh, my certification, there's nothing going forward. But what it did, which was extremely positive in at least my perspective, is that it enabled the new courses that we designed and built last year to be more focused on enabling organizations to put something into action and get an outcome. A lot of what I've covered, both at the team level, and again, I haven't been able to show some of the things that are at the Disciplined Agile Leadership, the Enterprise Agility course, is that they're example based, and there are things you leave with. You leave with good quality examples. You leave with tools. You leave with Miro boards that you're able to use immediately. So it's not anymore about focusing on getting you, again, rote memory and understanding how to pass
getting another
exam.
merit badge. Yeah.
And the focus for DA is back to what it was prior to PMI's acquisition, which was more of a B2B perspective. And people say, well, what does that mean? Well, B2C in the PMI space is to the consumer. It's to an individual that's going to take a course, challenge an exam, get recognized for their knowledge. B2B means we're working with organizations to, ideally to deliver the training so that we're not training an individual from this company, an individual from that company in a public environment. What we're doing is we're saying, okay, Mark, so you're bringing us in and we want to do the Disciplined Agile Foundations course, and we're going to train your PMO members, or we're going to take your team leads, or we're going to take a team through that training to leave them with a solid approach to being able to, again, determine what their evolution of the way of working is going to look like. Again, using a quick start, or again, maybe it's again a little bit more hybrid than they are today. And that, to me, has been one of the best things that we've seen within DA. But not a lot of people know about it, right? There's not a lot of communication and marketing from a DA perspective, like a lot of things. I mean, PMI is just such a large organization with a lot of offerings that it's kind of like the best kept secret in the Agile, in the Team Agile, the Enterprise Agile, and definitely in the value stream management perspective. One thing I didn't mention in the opening is I was a board member for a few years at the Value Stream Management Consortium, which has now become Flowtopia. That was originally stood up by a lot of the significant tool organizations. Like Atlassian was Planview, Atlassian, a lot of the big companies. So I've had the opportunity to see and get insight from a lot of people that are interacting with organizations all across the world for value stream management from digital practices. And I can say that what we're now putting into DA, or building upon what was there, is some of the best content to make portfolio management and product management, again, those investment decision space, out of anything else that I think is available in the industry. Just
I think
no one knows about it.
The way you've explained it, the B2B makes absolute sense. But from an emotional marketing perspective, and my original background is in marketing, there is a certain loss, because if you look at the original, Six Sigma approach, they kind of used a dual approach. They had a B2B approach, but they didn't leave out the B2C because they understood that they needed angels or advocates or evangelists. That's the only counter that I might offer, because I think it's important in the sense of creating disciples. And I think a lot of the people who took the Disciplined Agile certification see themselves as advocates and disciples and evangelists for your topic. I think that might be something that on the back end, when you move forward, you might consider some kind of, merit badge or whatever it might be to designate those people. Because going forward, like I said, the multiplication effect, people rotate from job to job, and being knowledgeable in DA, having it on your CV is great, but having some kind of illustrious stamp of approval for the next employer might be an interesting factor from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, yes, and there is recognition when you take either the Disciplined Agile Foundations course, which again is Team Agility, or Disciplined Agile Leadership. Now, one of the other challenges that we saw, that the pre-PMI acquisition of DA, that were DA partners with the Disciplined Agile Consortium, and we could deliver the training that the consortium had, was that when PMI acquired DA, those Disciplined Agile partners sort of came along, right? And so the time period was when the Registered Education Program, the REP program, was transitioning to the Authorized Training Partner program, the ATP program. And when ATP transition happened, all of the DA partners needed to become an Authorized Training Partner. And so that began to introduce, at least in my opinion, some challenges, because what happened was pre-acquisition, you really needed to be an expert in DA. There were not a lot of consulting partners, and definitely not a lot of people that could deliver training, because you needed to actually have used DA in practice. When it went to the ATP program, unfortunately what happened was, if you were a training partner, pretty much anybody that was an instructor you could deem suitable for delivery.
Oh, you think that the transition, because for me, it was just a change of letters.
Yeah. So what happened is that let's say you had somebody that was teaching PMP and ACP. They were kind of like a professional and, trainer, right? And so, for those of you that don't know, when you're an instructor, you've got PowerPoints, and the PowerPoints have speaker notes. And, so sometimes, you might just see people that don't have a lot of expertise as an instructor in the subject matter, but, they know the slides and they can read speaker notes. So they can kind of train anything.
They're kind of like news commentators.
Kind of, right? And so what happened was we saw a significant jump in people that were offering the DA courses. And I know myself, I had a number of people that would come through and take training from me. And, based on interacting with them in the course, I knew that they had maybe no experience with agile ways of working. And now they're teaching DA courses. So that became a challenge, as well as that and it was popular, right? DA, the PMI has got a huge membership base, and so here's this new shiny thing, and so there were a lot of DA courses being delivered. And unfortunately, that meant all of a sudden everybody jumped on delivering courses. And I think it kind of hurt the credibility of DA, because people would take some of those courses from an inexperienced instructor, or an instructor that didn't maybe have the experience and depth of knowledge needed to answer questions from a practical application perspective.
Well, I still think to counter that, I think one of the countermeasures should have been to maybe have a different selection process for who's allowed to teach DA.
Correct.
But it doesn't necessarily negate the potential value of creating a handful of senior experts that advocate for you.
No, and I'm sorry, and I got off on a tangent there. The primary goal for this next gen DA was more B2B stuff, but ATPs can deliver this in a public environment, and again like any other course. My company is no longer an ATP. There's no conflict of interest because of all the work that I do with PMI and working with DA, right? So we stopped being an ATP. I will be delivering both the DA Foundations course and the leadership course through PM training.